Alright, all these job applications are telling me that I need to have commercial awareness. Time to figure out what that is. Commercial awareness can make the difference between becoming and not becoming a lawyer. We'll expect you to be interested in the commercial world and the issues that affect both our clients and our firm. Commercial awareness is an important attribute. Clients expect their lawyers to know in-depth details on how a business is run. Commercial awareness. Because business matters to our clients, it matters to us. What the is commercial awareness? Welcome back to the channel, guys. So if you've applied for a job at a commercial law firm or any corporate professional services firm, you might have heard that successful candidates tend to display a high level of commercial awareness. But if you're anything like me, when I was a law school student trying to find that first job out of school, you might have gone to Google, searched commercial awareness, read everything you could find, and ended up feeling a bit more confused than when you started. So today, I want to share the inside scoop on what commercial awareness actually means, at least from my perspective as a corporate lawyer having advised clients. In particular, I'll focus on characteristics and requisite knowledge that we in the industry like to see from job applicants and interns. If you find this video helpful, please do consider hitting that like button and subscribing, as that helps us out a lot. So first up, the obvious question. What do firms mean by commercial awareness? In short, commercial awareness refers to the understanding or awareness of the key consideration of commercial clients. Commercial law firms, like other corporate professional services providers like accountants and M&A advisors, advise businesses on their commercial transactions. So it's super important for commercial lawyers to have a basic understanding of the business and commercial considerations of their clients when entering into those transactions. In any situation, there are usually different dynamics at play and lots of different ways that one can proceed with a matter. So as a commercial lawyer, to advise your client on the best path forward really does require an understanding of more than just the law. Take a simple example. If a client has a long-standing commercial relationship with one of his business suppliers, but comes to us saying that they've had a hard time renegotiating a renewed contract with that supplier, what should we advise? We could just aggressively enter into negotiations with that supplier and play hardball to try to push through all the commercial points that our client wants. But by doing so, we would risk leaving a renewed deal on the table and potentially putting the client in a weird spot of needing to find a new supplier at short notice. Given that there is a long-standing commercial relationship, we could ask the client for more details about how they want us to proceed and whether or not there's a significant risk for them if a deal is left on the table or if negotiations don't go forward. It's ultimately quite likely that we would want to approach the negotiations being a little bit more conservative in approach and trying to find a good middle ground because the client may be interested in protecting that commercial relationship. So in this example, the latter scenario is obviously a bit more preferred. The client gets to keep his long-standing relationship with the supplier, and we're not going in too aggressive and potentially ruining that dynamic. But to be honest, the first option of being more aggressive has its use cases too. If we change the facts slightly and introduce a separate situation where a client might come to us saying that they've received offers from several different suppliers, then we could maybe be a little bit more aggressive in our approach and see which one of those suppliers is most willing to comply with our client's intended terms. This can ultimately lead us to ask the right questions and clarify instructions where needed to make sure that when providing our services, we're doing it in the best way possible for the client. So taking it back to the definition of commercial awareness, whilst it's not really possible to put ourselves in our client's subjective position and read their minds, it is possible to try to put ourselves in their shoes and try to understand their commercial or business considerations in any given circumstance. This means that us, as advisors, can ultimately ask the right questions or raise potential issues to the client to clarify our instructions to make sure that we're providing the best services possible. In that way, we're better able to do our jobs as advisors and representatives of the client to get the outcome that's best for the client at the end of the day. So now that we've established what commercial awareness is, here comes the big question. How do you get better at being commercially aware? So one of the things that's recommended a lot online is just to read the Financial Times or other finance and business-centric newspapers. Now, this isn't a bad suggestion by any means, but I'll be honest with you. When I was a student, I lacked background in business, finance, and economics. So for me, picking up those newspapers and reading them didn't really help a lot because I felt like I was lacking a lot of context. But over time, I did figure out some ways to do this a little bit more effectively rather than just reading articles front to back. Firstly, when reading longer articles in newspapers like this, try to ask yourself the following questions. Firstly, what is the problem that the company or institution is trying to solve with its actions? Second, what are the challenges that the company or institution will face when trying to solve that problem? Third, how are they proposing to solve the problem, or if already solved, how did they go about doing it? And finally, why do you think they chose to solve the problem in this manner? Thinking in this slightly more formulaic way when reading the news can be super helpful because I think it helps center the mind on the important question, which is, What are the commercial or other factors that a business is thinking about when solving problems or carrying out its decision-making process? This goes to the meat of what we deal with as commercial lawyers on a day-to-day basis when advising our clients, so it's definitely a trick that I recommend if you're going to go ahead and read financial newspapers. Keep in mind though, if you're doing this, there are usually several different factors that can impact a company's decision-making process, so there's not really a right or wrong answer in any given situation. As I mentioned before, most commercial problems have several different methods of resolution, so it is important to do that brainstorming process and think about the different possibilities and why you think one might be better than the other. As a final note on this point, if the Financial Times or other comparable newspapers are a little bit too much to get started with, it's possible to turn to social media like Twitter or newsletters like Substack, where certain authors are condensing business news into more digestible and compact formats. So another thing that I kind of did for fun when I was a law school student that I think helped me with my commercial awareness was reading business school case studies. And yes, you heard that right, I did say that I do that for fun, and yes, I do have a problem. Thank you for asking. Some of these are available for free online via official university websites, and while they don't always publish the solutions with the case studies, they do tend to set out a lot of background as to the commercial situation and the considerations of the individuals or the business in question. So reading through these can be a really good tool for training commercial awareness as well. Fun fact, when I was in university, I worked on and off as a bartender. I got the idea to start reading business school case studies because the owner of one of the bars that I worked at told me that he started buying Ivy League business school case studies for his managers in his various stores to read and learn from. I thought that was a really practical and great idea to potentially level up my own understanding of business, so I went online and looked for all the free ones I could and found that I really enjoyed reading them. These definitely helped me shift gear into thinking more from a business perspective as opposed to just a legal one, which I think really contributed to my understanding of commercial awareness. At the end of the day, law school teaches people how to think like lawyers, meaning how to apply the law to various situations. By contrast, business school teaches people how to solve problems and handle situations in a more business-minded, commercial context. So if you have the appetite for it, I definitely recommend trying this out. And the final tip I have here is just to consider reading some business-related books. Once again, I had a lot of interest in this, and as a student, I really enjoyed reading through books on business as it helped me think about things from a more commercial perspective, which I found kind of new and refreshing at the time. Biographies of business people and the stories of really big businesses are really good for this because they tend to detail challenges that were faced along the way and how they were overcome. Do keep in mind though, I put this tip last because it may not be the best bang for your buck in terms of time versus commercial awareness gained. It can take a decent chunk of time to read a full book, and not everything in that book will necessarily be super relevant to what you're looking for, so do keep that in mind. But if you're interested in business and commercial things anyway, it might be of interest to you, and like me, you might have some fun with it, so it's not a bad option to consider as well. And finally, the last point that I wanted to raise is to remember that your law firm is a business too. The reason that commercial law firms look for commercial awareness in lawyers that they want to hire is because ultimately the business of the firm is to provide the best advice to its clients as possible. And since the clients are generally businesses or financial institutions with their own set of commercial considerations, having lawyers that can both apply the law and consider these business considerations is massively important. Therefore, what's equally important is for you to ask yourself whether you're actually interested in business or commerce at all. I once had a conversation with one of the graduate recruitment partners at my firm who mentioned that one of the things he looks for is candidates who are actually interested in business, because if they're not, why would they be applying for a job at a commercial law firm? If commercial problem solving is something that really fascinates you, then you, like me, might have a lot of fun reading case studies or reading books on business because that's something that just genuinely fascinates you. If you're not super interested in any of this, that's totally fine, but it may be worth considering whether a career in commercial law would be really fulfilling for you in the first place. There are lots of practice areas in law outside of commercial law, and it's definitely super important to try to get into a practice area that you genuinely are interested in pursuing. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Check out this video next for our tips on how to perform best at your law firm internship, and check out this video for a video that the YouTube algorithm thinks that you'll like.